Hey, good morning everybody. Welcome to another episode of Get Out and Explore with John. Today I find myself standing right next to the Potomac River, about 155 miles northwest of Washington, D.C. and about 30 miles southeast of Cumberland. I am in Paw Paw, and I came here to check out the Paw Paw Tunnel, which was the final portion of the C O Canal that was opened in 1850. It was quite an engineering feat of its day, so I thought I wanted to come up here and take a look at it and give you a little bit of history on the Paw Paw Tunnel itself. So let's start by imagining that we were back in the mid-1800s and we were in charge of construction of the C O Canal. We got up to this point here, about 150 miles or so northwest of DC, like I said. You come to a portion of the river called the Paw Paw Bends, and at this point the construction was having a difficult time making it around the next 6-mile stretch of the river here because of the cliffs and the rock that were lining the sides of the river. There was really no space for them to construct a canal and the towpath, so the engineers decided to bypass this section of the river and create the Paw Paw Tunnel. So that's what we're going to go check out today. So let's get hiking. We got about a half-a-mile hike from the campground here over to the tunnel itself, and we're going to go check it out. Right, here's the parking lot and the campground next to the river, and when we make our way right up this little trail up here, we're going to find ourselves actually on the C O Canal at mile marker 156, I believe, and it's going to be a short half-mile or so walk to the tunnel. Go. While I'm making my half-mile walk up to the tunnel itself, I wanted to give you a little bit of history on the C O Canal and its construction. So it was inspired by the success of the Erie Canal up in New York, and the idea was to connect the Chesapeake Bay all the way up to the Ohio River, and the initial concept was actually part of George Washington's plan to bring materials and goods and from the mountains all the way down to the waterfront in Washington, D.C. So this was part of what his vision was to create this canal, and it was constructed in a couple of different sections, and this particular section here in Paw Paw was the most difficult section to complete because of the conditions of the river there, where it was just not advantageous to continue the canal. So that's when they came up with the plan to divert the canal and tunnel through the mountain here. So that's why we actually have a Paw Paw Tunnel. So the towpath is in pretty good shape here, but unfortunately you can see the canal itself is pretty much filled in and overgrown with trees. It's not been in use for nearly 100 years now, and this is what nature's reclaimed it, and this is what it looks like today. The groundbreaking for the construction of the C O Canal began in July of 1828, when President John Quincy Adams turned the first spade of dirt at Little Falls, Maryland. Ironically, the same day as work would begin on the B&O Railroad, which would ultimately put the canal out of business. After years of hard work, the construction of the canal would only make it to Cumberland, Maryland. Alright, as you can see, I'm standing here in front of the north entrance to the Paw Paw Tunnel here. The tunnel itself is about 3,100 feet, or roughly about a half a mile in length. When they got to this point, the original estimates to construct the tunnel were that it was going to cost them around $33,000 and take about 2 years to dig through the mountain. But as we'll find out, that was not the case. But for now, let's go inside the tunnel and check it out, and we'll check out the tunnel first, and then as you can see, there's a trail that goes up over top of the mountain, so we're going to check that out later on. But let's go inside the tunnel now and see what it looks like on the inside. Okay, as you can see at the entrance to the tunnel, it looks like they have steps that go up and around each side of the tunnel. So on Get Out and Explore with John, we always have to explore and check out the interesting aspects of the things that we're looking at. So we're going to climb up there and check it out. As you can see, it's pretty wet and slippery up there. There's a lot of loose shale, so if you decide to try to climb over top of the tunnel entrance here, just be super careful because it looks a little treacherous, and it is. But this is pretty cool. Okay, so here's some of the loose shale that was up on the stairs there. As you can see, broken into small pieces and falling off the side of the cliffs there. But this is part of the issue that they had when they were constructing the tunnel, that the rock was very brittle and it was very prone to collapsing. So they had a lot of issues with that. A lot of people got injured and killed during the construction of this trail, but this is exactly why it was such a difficult construction to dig through this mountain here. So just wanted to show you that. All right, so as you can see here at the top of the tunnel entrance, it's been raining pretty steadily for the last few days, so a lot of water seeping through the rocks here. So you definitely have to be careful. This is very slippery up here. But here's the view from the top of the entrance to the canal. This would be looking north, going towards Cumberland, and that's the trail that we walk down to get to the tunnel. As we approach the north entrance to the tunnel, this is the view that they would have had coming southbound from Cumberland. The construction of the tunnel itself began in June of 1836 with two different crews starting at each end of the mountain digging towards each other. As they got further into the mountain itself, they did create vertical shafts to remove some of the rock as they progressed through. You can see the light at the other end of the tunnel, and it seems like it's not that long and pretty well lit, but as you get towards the center of the tunnel, it becomes very dark. So I have a flashlight and a lantern with me so we can see when we get inside the tunnel. So let's go check out the inside of the Paw Paw Tunnel. Okay, so the original estimates were that the construction workers were going to be able to excavate 6 to 7 feet of rock per day. But as they progressed into the tunnel, they found that the conditions of the rock were much tougher than they originally expected. They had a lot of collapses, like I said, but all in all, they were only able to dig 9 to 12 feet per week. So that's why it took them such a long time to build the tunnel. But enough of that. Let's head into the tunnel. I'm excited to go in and check out the inside, so let's get going. All right, this is pretty cool. We are getting dripped on because, like I said, it's been raining for the last couple days, so the tunnel is a little wet. But as you can see, they lined the entire tunnel with, I believe I read, 5 layers of brick to keep it from collapsing on the inside. All right, so another little interesting feature of the tunnel, as the work progressed inwards, the workers placed these little plaques every 100 feet or so to let them know how far they made it into the tunnel and how much more they had left to go. So if you look closely, you'll find one of these plaques about every 100 feet. I'll show you a close-up of it. As you can see here, this is the third marker that they placed during construction. So this indicates that we're 300 feet in from the entrance of the tunnel. All right, so as you make your way through the tunnel, another little interesting piece of history is if you look really closely at the handrail here, you can see the markings of where the ropes rubbed across the handrail here when the mules were pulling the canal boats through the tunnel here. After years and years of rope rubbing on it, it's worn the top of the handrail, and you can actually see the striations of where the rope worked itself across and wore down the handrail. So that's kind of a pretty cool little interesting fact there. Okay, so I'm just about halfway through the tunnel, I believe, and as you can tell, it's getting pretty dark in here. The footing or the ground here is pretty uneven, so highly recommend bringing a flashlight with you so you don't trip inside the tunnel here. But behind me there's the north entrance to the tunnel, and if I swing around here, where it is, okay, there it is. There's the south entrance. So actually looks like I might not be quite halfway, but definitely getting dark in here. So. You can hear some of the kids up there in front of me. There's kind of a pretty good echo going in the tunnel here. It's pretty fun. They seem to be having a good time. Is that you all making that noise? There's another one of those markers. Let's see. That's marker number 11, so 1,100 feet in. You can see the light reflecting off the water in the tunnel. The tunnel itself, one of the problems with the tunnel was that it was only wide enough for one of the canal boats at a time to make it through. So it definitely caused a lot of canal boat jams from time to time. And there were even instances of canal barge captains who were waiting in line at the entrance of the tunnel, getting in fist fights to see who could go first through the tunnel because they wanted to get down to Georgetown to deliver their goods. The faster they got there, the more money they could make. So they had that issue with the tunnel here. Okay, so here's a spot in the tunnel where you can see where the brick is falling out. You can see all the different layers of brick. So there's 1, 2, 3, I think 5 layers of brick you can see in here, and then you can see the actual shale rock that they were drilling and blasting through back into the hole here. So let me take you back here so you can kind of see exactly what they were dealing with. Back in there is the shale. That's the actual mountain inside of the mountain. So that's a pretty cool little thing I just came across there. So I wanted to show you that. Okay, so the last feature of the tunnel that I wanted to show you is if you look on the opposite side of the tunnel itself, there's a wooden rail that runs the entire length of the tunnel. And that was installed during the construction to keep the canal boats that were coming through the tunnel from running into the masonry and the brick on the side of the tunnel and damaging it and compromising the structure of the tunnel. So they kind of thought of that ahead of time and put the wooden railing up to prevent any kind of accidents like that. So that's a look ahead, and that's a pretty cool little feature that I wanted to show you. It was estimated that the workers excavated over 200,000 cubic yards of rock to create the tunnel. When it was completed, the last section of the canal finally opened in 1850. Alright, well, as you can see, I just emerged from the south entrance of the tunnel. Took me probably, I don't know, stopping along the way and checking it out, maybe 10 minutes to walk through the tunnel. But check it out. Like I said, it's been raining pretty good for the last few days, and I've got a nice little waterfall right outside the south entrance of the tunnel here. So this is the area that has just recently been shored up and rebuilt. There was a lot of issues with rock slides and stuff, and the Park Service basically had the tunnel worked on for about the last year or so, but now it's all complete and for everybody to come and enjoy. Right here you can see the completion of some of the work that the National Park Service did, installing fencing up there and putting these supports into the side of the entrance here. Keep the rock from sliding down. That's one of the main problems they had here. So you can see the pins that they put in the rock to shore things up. Looks like they put a number of these things in, and we should be good to go for quite a while here. Okay, so the mountain here was created about 250 million years ago, and it's made out of what is known as roller shale, which is a finely silted, compacted mud that turns into this shale, and it's very brittle when they start working with it. So that's what they were actually dealing with when they were digging the tunnel. So basically, as soon as they started construction, they knew that they were going to be encountering this, and the original 2-year estimate to build the tunnel was thrown out the window almost immediately. So soon after construction began, the foremen realized that the Irish laborers that they had hired, the cheap labor to get started on the project, just didn't have enough experience to work in these kind of conditions. So they were forced to hire much more expensive laborers from Wales, and even German masons from Pennsylvania. They came down and were the ones that actually did the finished masonry work at the entrances of the tunnel and laid the brick on the inside of the tunnel. Of course, this increased the cost of the construction tremendously, and so they ran into a lot of financial difficulties trying to finish the tunnel. And that's another factor why it took them such a long time to complete the construction. Of course, the difference in pay rates for the different groups of workers led to a lot of animosity between the groups, and numerous outbreaks of violence occurred to the point where there were a lot of labor strikes. All right, so here's the close-up view of the southern entrance of the tunnel. I'm going to try to climb up there. I'm going to get wet because the water's coming off the side of the rock here, but I'm going to try to climb up there and give you a view from the southern entrance of the Paw Paw Tunnel. All right, that was some cold water, but wanted to give you a view from the southern end of the tunnel. So just came up the stairs over here. It's quite wet and slippery, but made it up here. Let's go off on the other side and see if we can get a nicer view, and we can kind of again see a different perspective of the entrance. Yeah, see, they had to dig way back there to create the entrance to the tunnel, so even before they started digging, there was a lot of work to be done. And one benefit to all the rain that we've had lately is this beautiful waterfall. That's absolutely gorgeous. And I would assume you're not gonna see that during the middle of the summer. Well, wow, that's beautiful. By the time the canal reached Cumberland in 1850, the B&O Railroad had already established service there, although it mostly carried passengers. The canal mainly carried cargo such as coal and lumber from Cumberland back down to Washington, D.C., so it was still profitable for some time. But it was at this time that the canal company dropped its plans to continue construction of the final 180 miles to Pittsburgh. Then in 1899, a major flood destroyed the canal, forcing bankruptcy. It was then that the B&O Railroad took over the operations until 1924, when another flood again destroyed the canal. It was then decided that the upkeep was just getting too costly, so the canal was abandoned. Then, in 1938, the National Park Service purchased the land and took over the canal and maintains it to this day. All right, and now here we are back on the actual dirt towpath. As you can see, the entrance into the tunnel there, the Park Service had to construct that boardwalk because I think things were collapsing, but there's a look back at it. It's a lot of digging that they had to do to create this tunnel even before they even started digging. Okay guys, well, made it to the southern terminus of the trail that goes over top of the mountain, so we're gonna try that on the way back and see if we can find anything cool up there. So again, let's get to hiking. A nice little view of the towpath from the trail going over top of the mountain there. Here on the path going over top of Paw Paw Mountain here, just came across a decent sized black snake. He doesn't want anything to do with me, but that's pretty cool. Hey buddy, what's happening? Let's see if we can extend our pole out and get a little closer shot. Gonna mess with him. Beautiful snake. All right, coming down the north side of the Paw Paw Tunnel, and there's a view of the Potomac River, and way down there is the campground where we parked. So we're almost back to where we started. Well, I'm almost back to the towpath now. I was hoping to find some remnants of something up there. I've seen some stuff online that there are like foundations and some informative plaques and stuff up there where the workers lived while they were building the tunnel, but I couldn't find anything up there. So if anybody has any information on that, go ahead and throw it in the comments down there so we can all learn together. Okay, back to the north entrance of the tunnel. It's a pretty good hike over top of the mountain there. Definitely get your blood flowing, but some nice views from the top. So definitely worth checking out if you have the time. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Get Out and Explore with John. Hopefully you like the story of the Paw Paw Tunnel and the C O Canal, and maybe learned a few things about that. If you have anything else that you want to add in the comments, please do so down below. And if you did enjoy the video, please like and subscribe to the channel and give me a thumbs up. Really appreciate that. And I guess I'll see you in the next video. Like I always say, you never know what you're going to see when you get out